4 present does not yet represent a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Richie. Because we don't yet have a quorum, we will postpone voting on the minutes from the last meeting. And I would ask everybody in the meantime to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I would like to invite Mr. Jim Green to the front. He is the principal here, and I hope you'll talk to us about your fabulous school.
Definitely, yeah.
It's
We're
nice
really,
to see you.
really excited. Nice to see you too. Really excited to have you here, and I just want to say, good evening, and welcome to Almira. My name is Jim Green. I've been principal here for the past 8 years. Past 5 years, 3 years as an assistant principal. So I love it here. Love everything about Almira and CMSD. But before I begin here, real quick, I just want to introduce some of the team. I have our Dean of Engagement. This is Mr. Pardon, and our wraparound site coordinator, Josh Fye. And so, again, I want to welcome CEO Eric Gordon and the CMSD Board of Education to tonight's board meeting here at Almira. However, a few things here I just wanted to kind of discuss, as we, have this meeting here tonight, because a lot was really running through my mind leading up to here. And, I always think about how blessed I am to be a part of this Almira School community and part of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, for the past 8 years. We've grown so much as a district, but we also grown a lot as a school as well. However, we all know we've had various challenges over the past 2 years during the pandemic. However, the one thing that really sticks out is our perseverance and resilience, primarily of our scholars, our families, and the staff. And basically we've only grown stronger, I think, throughout all of this. We've embraced the various changes and created new opportunities to set our scholars up for lifelong success. As some of you had a chance to see, we have a Verizon 5G innovative lab that is about to open up next month, and it's been a long time coming. I'm very excited. I'm excited for the school, but most importantly, I'm excited for the opportunities it's going to provide for the scholars that come through Almira and as they move on into high school and beyond. So it's very exciting times here. And again, I can't be more thrilled to have this grand opening coming here on May 11th at 9:30 a.m. So after, embracing these various challenges and, we have had new opportunities, I can keep going on and on. I love data. I love number crunching. And I know I could literally stand here all night and talk data. However, one thing that really came to mind is, who better to tell you about Almira than our very own Gators? So take it away. All right. Yeah, they're very excited, our staff.
Hi, I am Michaela McBrayer, and I'm going to be reading the Post-Pandemic Learning Vision. In our pursuit of more fair, just, and good system of education, we want our learners, both each of our scholars and each of their educators, to be individually and collectively presented with academically and intellectually complex tasks that are worthy of their productive struggle and allow them authentic opportunities to demonstrate their work and learning of academic content and transferable skills in a joyful and adventurous environment.
Hi, my name is Serenity Harvey, and I am in the 5th grade. On behalf of the STARS conflict mediators and Almira student leaders, we would like to thank Mr. Green, our principal, for giving us the opportunity to welcome you to our school this evening. We would like to share a poem honoring the legacy of Almira, a school that has been educating scholars for over 100 years. As for atmosphere, Almira is our home away from home. Our scholars understand that we must all work together to make our school a positive and supportive place. To keep our school bully-free, we have our anti-bullying program, Not on Our Watch, known as NOW. To keep our school peaceful, we have conflict resolution service offered by the STARS conflict mediators. And to keep our school safe, we have security attendance supported by our safety patrol. All of these services and programs are led by the students here at Almira.
L is for leadership. Due to our high expectations, academic rigor, and clear goals for success, Almira has been awarded their Certificate of Achievement for being an independent school. We are very proud of this honor, and we are excited to continue and move onward and upward.
Hi, my name is Zamaya. M is Zamaya Noble. M is for motivation. The definition of motivation is the act or process of giving someone a reason for doing something. Our administration, teachers, and families motivate us to reach the highest potential by making school fun. Students versus staff games are one of our favorite events, and we are also motivated by being challenged with data-driven instructions and high expectations for everyone. This is also known as Almira Game Plan.
I is for innovative. Thinking outside the box is one of the many ways that our school supports all learners. For example, our Gators earn class dojo points and Gator bucks towards their awesome school PBIS motivation and party like a rock star with our very own and house DJ Mr. Green at our school motivated dances. These prizes active and awards help keep our scholars engaged and excited to learn.
R is for resources. Almira strives to meet the needs of every scholar academically, socially, and emotionally, so it is only natural that we have an abundance of resources at our school. And to support learning community, just to name a few resources, we have state-of-the-art school-wide technology for instruction to help support our school's two top priorities, focus and performance. Index in K-3 literacy. We have before and after school tutoring sessions, as well as offer a variety of academic supports throughout the day. To keep things dense, we have yoga, and to keep things classy, we have ballroom dances, all offered through our various CMSD partnerships. And finally, A is for achievement. Every Gator at Almira knows that by the time we leave our school, we have building blocks necessary to help us be successful with other careers, college, and life. Failure is not an option, and neither is complacency. We will continue to raise our test scores and strive for excellence because Almira is a school where great things happen every day.
Thank you very much. It's tough duty to stand up in front and make a presentation like that. And I just saw you did a great job, all three of you. Thank you for joining us. Usually Mr. Gordon says this, you're welcome to stay, but we're not insulted if you decide that you would rather go outside and go home and do your homework. And so...
Before you leave, though, before you leave...
Hold on.
Hang on. Before you leave, I just need to say, I don't know if you've ever had a really bad day, but I had a really bad day, and I feel so good right now. I'm so proud of you. So thank you. And now you don't have to stay for the meeting if you don't want to.
So go home and do your homework. Thank you, Mr. Green. That was terrific. Can we back up just for a moment, Mr. Richie, and we'll go back and, oh, maybe I don't even need you to do this. So the chair will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the board business meeting of March 29th, 2022. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I should wear my glasses. The board leadership development session of April 8th, 2022, and the board leadership development session of April 9th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Thank you. And with that, Mr. Gordon, we will now have a report from our Chief Executive Officer, Eric Gordon.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and members of our community. It's really nice to be back in more of our schools. We've been in 2 schools because of COVID, but we're able to begin moving around again, so really, really nice to be here at Almira this evening. I will start, as we have for now 2 full years, with our COVID update. We are continuing to very carefully monitor the reported COVID cases in the district and at the city level. Right now, we have 7 students who are in the 5-day protocol and 10 students who are in the 12 students that would be in the 10-day protocol if necessary, 6 staff members in the 5-day protocol, and 12 staff members that would qualify for the 10-day protocol if it were necessary. So the numbers in the district continue to be extremely low, which is a positive sign. The city of Cleveland over the past several weeks now has had some of the lowest numbers since before last summer, averaging about 10 to 20 reported cases per day. However, last week we did see an increase in the city with one day reporting 65 cases. Now I want to caution us not to read one piece of data as alarming, because that could be just a reporting cycle issue. But we are seeing a slight increase, and we know that health professionals are concerned about a potential next Omicron and are seeing some signs of this, particularly on the East Coast right now, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and some other places. Our local health department and our local hospitals have told us that health experts believe the newest variant of Omicron is likely to spread even quicker than the one that came before it. However, it is also expected to make people less sick than the one before it. And so that's the kind of the thing that health officials will be watching for under the latest guidelines from the CDC and the health department. They also believe, and of course won't know fully until they can study it, but they believe that people who had the first variant of Omicron may have an immunity to the second, and they are confident that those of us who are boosted and vaccinated and boosted have immunity as well. That could be potentially helpful for Cleveland because of how very serious our Omicron was in December in particular. But we are paying very, very close attention, watching very closely. In the meantime, we are continuing to use our mask preferred strategy. You saw that some of our students did prefer to wear their masks, some did not, and we really want students to be at the comfort that they are, students and adults both. And then we're continuing to try to use all of our other mitigation standards where it's appropriate. You can also see the cases of water in the back, so we're still delivering bottled water so that we're not using communal water fountains and that sort of thing. So all of those other mitigations that I've shared with you multiple times over the years, we're continuing to support, including dropping PPE. I just signed for the last quarter of that drop, just so schools have ample resources to continue to mitigate what is likely to be an endemic where we need to learn to live with this so that we can try to get new business as usual, as Mr. Green, Principal Green, and his team are doing here. So not going to spend a lot more time on COVID because we spent quite a bit on it, but just for the board to know that we're still paying attention literally on a daily basis and working with the city health department on a weekly basis as well. Has continued to be staffing season all year long. So I mentioned at our last meeting that we were having open interviews for our transportation department. We invited 85 people to interview to be either bus drivers or bus trainees. We have 9 offers out already. So that will continue to build capacity for us. And we may have other candidates from that original 85, but 9 in the works already for us, which is really exciting to see continuing to fill those gaps. We're also preparing for summer learning experience. We put the application out. We had 980 teachers apply to work our summer learning experience, 244 paraprofessionals, 27 school health professionals, and a combined 40 child development and pre-K intervention specialists. That's our preschool classrooms. And so we're feeling pretty good about being ready And staff members have been working hard for 2 solid years, and I was with one of my colleagues today who actually is scaling back their summer programming because they were not able to get faculty to participate. But our numbers are really strong, and that speaks highly to the people that are in our classrooms in our schools every single day. And so really, really pleased and excited for that. Summer learning experience materials are now on our website. We will have 3 weeks of summer camps in a partnership with many agencies, including the City of Cleveland, the Metro Parks, the libraries, and a number of others. You have in your materials this evening the mock-up of the catalog that includes all of those activities. This is being mailed to every resident in the district's footprint and gives all the details about summer learning experience, the 4 or 5 week Finish, Enrich, and Engage in the middle of summer, along with the 3 weeks of camps and summer learning experience and the 3 weeks of camps post summer learning experience. What this allows is for students to be engaged all summer long, camps, then the summer learning experience, then camps again, but it created a 3-week break for our faculty on the front end and a 3-week break on the faculty for the back end with the camps creating that buffer space. So we're really excited about that. Again, the website is live. This brochure is in the mail house and will start hitting homes in all of the district footprint in the coming days. This is also now posted on the city's recreation website, or will be. I know the city was working on it, and so a really exciting partnership in a way we've not been able to do in the past years. So working really hard to be ready for summer, and we'll continue to do that. Registration for Summer Learning Experience begins April 25th, so families will have 5 weeks of registration window to select the programming that they want for their young people. We're also really gearing up for next school year, so our talent team has been to multiple career fairs. They've already visited Ohio University, Bowling Green State University, Toledo, Southeast Ohio, including the University of Cincinnati, Xavier, Northern Kentucky, Miami, Ohio State. They are also prepared to go to Akron, Kent, and Howard in the coming weeks, and are preparing an internal May 4th hiring fair for the various positions we have both for this year and getting ready for next year. And they're preparing a July fair and then fairs in September, November, and January so that we have a constant rhythm of continuing to invest in building our workforce. So lots going on in the staffing world, and my compliments to Chief Ward and her team for all of the work they've done, and particularly this summer. Again, I know my peers are really struggling in this space, and so really pleased with the team and the numbers from our faculty. Another big push that is going on is getting ready for this year's class of 2022, who will be graduating in a few short weeks. One of the things that's really important for that is to ensure we have sufficient College Now Say Yes mentors. WKYC, again, partnered with College Now for Mentor Mondays through the month of March, and we were able to recruit an additional 276 mentors, but we'd like to get about 50 more, and so we're going to continue to work internally and externally to find 50 more people who have a college degree in any credential. And the degree is important because we want people who have been through their college experience to be able to reflect with our young people as they're going through their experience. People who are interested can go to collegenowgc.org/become-a-mentor, and there's a dash in between, so become-a-mentor. And that information will also be on our social media and website, and will be going out to all of our district employees tomorrow as well. We're really excited. We think we can close that last 50 and make sure that every single student who graduates and pursues an advanced education has a mentor along that journey. So really excited about that. A number of other events going on across the district. So a couple of weeks ago, we had our first ever historically Black College and University Combine. We had 45 juniors from our football programs across the city who came out and participated in multiple stations while recruiters got to see them and see their skills and do the skills tests and talk to them about potentially playing football as part of their academic programming at an HBCU. So we did that out at Berea at the Browns facility with a great partnership there, and it's a first of what we hope will be many for both male and female athletes. So it was a big success. We were really excited about it, and we're looking forward to replicating that as we move into next year. Also, in the last couple of weeks, we had our first robotics teams. We have 5 teams across the district. We're all competing for the Buckeye Regional at the Cleveland State University Wolstein Center. I got the opportunity to actually be down in what they call the pit, which is very much like what you would see in NASCAR, where there's these stations that the students are working on their robots in between the challenges. This year's challenge, the robot had to be able to move autonomously for, I think it was 15 seconds, where the players were not allowed to drive, and the robot had to actually make some movement on its own. Then the drive team was allowed to engage. They had to pick up these blue and red balls and toss them into a funnel. They also had to play defense to make other robots not pick up the balls and put them in the funnel. And then they had to come over to like a jungle gym where the robot had to pick itself up off of the ground and suspend itself in the air. And so the students were competing there. They were really helping each other. They formed alliances with each other. Our veteran team was helping some of our younger teams, and so it's just a really great experience. And this is also a partnership we have with Tri-C and with the Great Lakes Science Center, along with our district programming. Last Thursday, our John Marshall chess teams left for Memphis, Tennessee. They qualified for the National High School Chess Championships. They went to Memphis over the weekend. One of our teams placed 12th in the nation. The other placed 13th in the nation. So it took the spot 12 and 13. And we had one individual on our team placed 35th individually in the country. And this group is really phenomenal in so many ways. Many of these young people are newcomers who met and started playing chess together at Joseph Gallagher School when they were in middle school. They won the National Chess Championship titles then and went back. They also had a little bit of an adventure. They had a flat tire in their van on the way down, and so they had a picture of them all sitting out on the grass playing chess while the van was being repaired. But apparently had a great time, and like I said, 12th and 13th in the nation for high school chess from our John Marshall students. So really exciting there as well. Tonight, as we are here, Max Hayes High School is actually hosting the CBCTC Apprenticeship Fair. That is the career technical fair for the local labor unions, and so construction trades, plumbing, electrical, and it used to be always done out at the trade centers in the suburbs. Actually, pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic, because of our partnership with the trades, they moved it to Max Hayes, making it accessible for people in the city of Cleveland, including our young people who aspire to become apprentices on the bench as they move into next year. So that's actually happening now. And then tomorrow, a group of 8th graders from Memorial School who are part of teacher Sarah Baldazar's class. Mrs. Baldazar is one of our teachers who's been practicing our problem-based learning classroom activities. Several months ago, she and her students did a problem-based learning, asking students to answer the essential question, what is the best grading system, the most fair grading system for students? The students had 1 week to research the question. So they started on Monday. They had until Friday, only of their class time, so it wasn't the whole day, so very short amount of time. They had to explain which system they had identified. They had to give rationale for why that was the correct system. They had to give a mathematical example of how the grading worked, and then they had to share parts of their profile of a graduate. You'll see Principal Green has the Almira profile in your folder here. Every school has lifted out elements that they're focused on, so they had to talk about that as well. That got the attention of the Mastery Transcript Consortium, which is a national consortium of experts from across the country who are really working to shift learning to mastery and mastery grading. And so the 8th grade students will be presenting their demonstrations of learning again tomorrow on a Zoom to national experts around the Mastery Transcript Consortium. So really excited to be with them for that tomorrow. A few last things. If you did not see it yet in the Plain Press, which is one of our local newspapers, Chuck Hoven, who is often here today, often here at the board meeting, did a really thorough job of our segment 8 construction. There's a multi-page article in the Plain Press summarizing the community meetings and the work that's going on, and so I would point you to that. I just got it today, so I didn't have a chance to go get multiple copies, but I would really encourage you to do so. And I would also point out that that's another place where you'll see the CMSD presence. We're trying really hard to support our local newspapers to have our visibility about get more experience for our families, both during the year and in the summer. Last few things, we had what I hope was a great board retreat on the 8th and 9th. I will just say I only have one evaluation so far, so nudge, nudge. So in an N of 1, we did great. So please, if you could take a little time, we really value that feedback, but thank you to the board for fully engaging in that content. A couple of big things coming up at the April business meeting. We will be recognizing all of our volunteers as we do every year. It's a particularly important year this year because of moving through volunteering in the world of COVID. And then our May work session, we will be having our valedictorian, salutatorian presentation, and we're going to have a dinner for them and their families prior to that, that of course the board is invited to as well. And then finally, you may notice both behind us and around the room, we are actually testing our live streaming right now. So it is live streaming. It is not public yet because we need to see that it actually works, the sound and the video and everything. But you can see Ben with his tablet back there. He and the team are testing all of that right now. And so if it goes as planned, we will actually post this meeting online for archive purposes and then potentially launch at the April business meeting. If it does not, then we will continue testing at the April business meeting, but we are closer than ever to fully live streaming. Finally, the last thing I'll point out, you should have in your media package a PACE sticker, so I wanted to just show that you have that. I also wanted to take an opportunity to recognize our newest doctor of the family, Dr. Jared Fox, who last week defended his capstone at Harvard University and was conferred his degree. He will be graduating in May with his ED-LD after doing his residency here in Cleveland. So Jared, if you'd stand and be recognized.
And PACE was his capstone project, so that's what he wrote
Your
about.
mic's not on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can people hear me anyway? I guess. Oh, maybe no, the live streaming can, but PACE, and his leadership in PACE and various projects was what he wrote about and defended during his capstone. It was magnificent. You did a fantastic job. I can't believe you're really going back to New York because, it would be great if you stayed. But thank you very much. The project is better because you were here. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, that concludes my report, so I'm happy to answer any questions or any reflections from the board.
Any questions from the board? Mrs. Link?
Thank you. And another congratulations to Dr. Fox. We're very proud of you. A couple quick things. The Plain Press, I believe, now has an online presence. So it's newer. I haven't actually looked it up, but I will with that, what Eric just spoke about. And then I have a question, Mr. Gordon, on the summer learning experience. I forget how many teachers you said applied. How many slots do we have, or are they all eligible? I just wanted to understand that.
So it's a great question. It'll depend on enrollment. The good news is that we have almost 200 more educators this year than last year, which means that allows us the potential for more students than last year, which we are hopeful that is based on the success of last year, we will see higher enrollment. So last year we enrolled 8,400 students and we had about 800 educators. Having about 980 educators gives us the capacity to go. Hopefully our goal was to be able to go as high as 10,000 students this summer.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was able to go last year to be a judge, and I'm hopeful to go again this year. I did read quickly, what you shared, and it's really phenomenal work. I mean, how many schools we have, the main partners, the other partners. I noticed that Almira is on the list, so very happy to hear that. Happy to hear there's a couple schools I can walk to, because that makes me more likely to visit them. So thank you for coordinating that, Mr. Gordon.
And to that point, thank you, Ms. Link. I would just ask the board now, hold the last 2 dates, the Thursday and Friday of the pre-K-8, which is the 28th and 29th, and the last Thursday and Friday of the summer high school, which is the 21st and 22nd. Those are the celebration days, and so you know that's how we close out. So we will be getting holds on your calendar, but you can be holding them as quickly as now. I'm sorry, July. So summer learning experience is June 27th through July 22nd for high schools, 4 weeks because of our extended year schools, and then June 27th through July 29th for pre-K-8 schools.
Kathleen?
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. So just to clarify, for the summer learning experience, unlike last year, instead of having 2 sessions like we did, we'll only be having 1 session for hoping to get all of the enrollment within that 1 session of the summer learning experience.
That's correct. So instead of having the overlapping sessions that we had last year, which essentially meant faculty had no break last year, we're doing the 3 weeks of summer camps to create a break, then the either 4 or 5 week session, and then the 3-week camps at the end. So it's a little bit of a different structure, basically designed to ensure that we got a little bit of rest in for our faculty.
Great, thank you. And regarding hiring as well, I noticed that you mentioned that there were about 85 interviews done for bus drivers, about 9 offers extended. Is that more so the need that we have for bus drivers, or are we in need for more?
Well, I'm sure we could use more. I'll get more specific data from the talent team and report it back to you. There is a bus driver shortage everywhere. In fact, the first ring suburban districts actually collaborated to create a news advertisement because of how short they are. We have been very fortunate that we've been able to recruit both trainees and drivers, so we're not as acutely problematic as others, but I'm sure we could probably still hire more. And again, I'll get you those numbers.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Ellicott.
Thank you, CEO Gordon, for the report. I'm really glad to hear about the recruiting success and just want to commend you and Chief Lori Ward and really all of the staff and leaders across the district, because I think that the school environment is ultimately, what makes people want to work with CMSD, and I think that's great to hear. I know I asked about it last time. And then question about the water bottles, water fountain situation. I know we talked about switching back to having water bottles or water fountains available so people could refill bottles. Is there data around transmission using water fountains? I think it'd be great to be more environmentally responsible and financially.
Yeah, so water bottle stations are still being installed. They are actually installed here at Almira. Mr. Green and his team are actually doing a gradual transition to build the right behaviors about filling bottled water, filling bottles and that sort of thing. We also do want to not waste the stock that we now have already purchased, but we are doing a gradual release. As we go into fall, I think we'll be much deeper into that. The CDC guidance on using communal fountains hasn't changed. Now, I don't know the data answer to the question. I will certainly research it, but the CDC guidance on using communal fountains has not changed yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gordon. We will now move into the discussion of resolutions for this evening. We have 15 resolutions in the areas of Board of Education, Finance, Operations, Portfolio, Academics, Information Technology, and Talent that will be presented to the board for discussion only. The board will be asked to consider the adoption of these resolutions at our April 26th board business meeting. So, Mr. Gordon, if you're ready, we could move into the 15 resolutions.
Thank you. Resolution 5.01 is a resolution amending board policy on prohibiting sexual harassment, discriminatory harassment, and discrimination. This is an additional revision of board policy AC, which includes replacing the use of prior gendered pronouns and revisions to ensure consistent term capitalization throughout the policy. We publish the entire policy AC as part of the district's student code of conduct so that all students and their families are also aware of the district's sexual harassment, discriminatory harassment, and discrimination policies. And so we saved this one to present at this meeting, where we will also later in the agenda be presenting the student code of conduct for the board's review and consideration. The code of conduct and this policy were reviewed and agreed to by our Student Behavioral Supports Committee, which is a committee made up of district and school-based leadership and members of the Cleveland Teachers Union. And I'll pause for any questions on this resolution. The next resolutions are the finance resolutions. Resolution 6.1 is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer. This is part 3 of a 3-part process that the board goes through every year, where we have to apply to the county, letting them know the tax collection needs that the board anticipates based on what voters have approved. The county then essentially validates that and sends it back to us, and then we have to accept as part of board policy their validation. And so in December, you approved the 2023 tax budget that requested the county to collect 84.3 mills in calendar year 23. That's 78.2 for the general fund, 1 for our permanent improvement, and 5.1 for bond retirement. The county reviewed our request and accepted the general and permanent improvement, but then adjusted the debt service down by 0.2 of a mil because we are collecting more robustly than had been planned. The other change is that this is also where we include the Cleveland Public Libraries, which, as you'll recall, the board is the fiscal agent for the libraries, and so there is an inclusion of 8.8 mils that is directly for the collection of the libraries. So this will be presented at the next meeting. Once approved, we are set for the 2023 calendar year, and we always have to do this. You kind of start a whole year early to get ready for the next year.
Any questions? Oh, doesn't look like it.
Resolution 6.02 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of grants from the Ohio Attorney General and the Ohio Department of Education, and authorizing the CEO to spend the funds in accordance with the terms and conditions of the grants. This includes 3 grants, one from the Ohio Attorney General in the amount of $189,808.32 to enhance safety and security in schools across the state. This is part of how we have updated some of our security cameras and the security networks. So that will be an additional investment. Second, from the Ohio Department of Education, the America Rescue Plan Homeless 2 grant in the amount of $1,164,907 to meet the needs of students experiencing homelessness as part of our Project ACT program. And the third, from the Ohio Department of Education, the Title I SIG 1003G grant in the amount of $150,469 to support high-quality, sustainable school improvement activities that increase student achievement. And just as a reminder, Title I SIG are the school-based grants that go straight out to schools to support school-based interventions and student achievement improvements. And I'll pause for questions here from the board.
So I just had a question about the grant from the Attorney General. Is that something we get frequently, or is that an occasional thing?
It is an occasional thing. We had one not too long ago that you'll probably remember. It was probably on the grant report that we sent out to the board last week or 2 weeks ago that actually allowed us to do some upgrades in 4 of our oldest pre-K-8 cameras in our pre-K-8 buildings, and this is essentially a replication of that application.
Good. It's generous of him. I appreciate it. Others? Yes, Ms.
I do
Valdez.
have another question regarding the, stemming from the Project Act grant that we're receiving for, that's supposed to be targeting our homeless students. Are we having any more work or identifying who these students are and what services that they'll be needing?
Let me get some more specific information directly from Project ACT. We do every year work with all of our schools on how to identify signs of homelessness. We also every year train on it as part of our public school works. And then we have certain schools that are kind of connected to local shelters that we work very closely with so that their intake processes feed directly to ours. So I can talk at that level of detail, but I'm happy to get more
Right,
detail
but
from.
I mean, I understand the ones that are already perhaps going to shelters, but the ones that are perhaps staying with other family members because they've lost, their own home and teaming up with.
Yeah. So again, we do
multiple
train
families.
for doubling up, hotel, stuff like that,
Right.
but I can get more specific details from Dr. Zashin because she would be able to give me more specifics of any additional efforts we've been able to put in place for this year. So I will follow up on that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was going to ask about that grant as well. So along with that information, do we have information about what schools or neighborhoods have more students experiencing homelessness or data like that's separated out by geography or school?
Yes, I can get you,
Okay.
probably not geography, but by school I can.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I'm just taking a couple notes here. All right, I've got that for both of you. Thank you. Okay, then Resolution 6.03 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of gifts and grants from the Cleveland Foundation and the GPD Employees Foundation, and authorizing the CEO to spend the funds in accordance with the terms and conditions of the grants. With this resolution, the board will be accepting 2 grants from the Cleveland Foundation in the amount of $7,341.99, one for Stonebrook Michael R. White Montessori and the other for Tremont Montessori, and this is part of the foundation's continued investment in the district's public Montessori model. And then a 3rd grant is from the GPD Employees Foundation in the amount of $6,000 to support 3D printing technology specific to the East Technical High School horticulture program. As I understand it, and I would have to get more specifics, but this is where you can actually create the vertical gardens out of you can print the whatever it is that you would print for the vertical gardens and things like that. So it's actually using the technologies to create the platforms that you would grow things in.
Yeah, I was thinking, what would you use a 3D printer for in a horticulture environment? But I'm guessing people who know about it know that you can print all sorts of things using the 3D printer.
That's right. All right. Resolutions in Section 7 are our operations resolutions. Resolution 7.01 authorizes the delivery of a quitclaim deed for permanent parcel number 126-18-061 to the City of Cleveland to correct the property records. So in 2009, this parcel, which was the back street of the former Buckeye Woodland site, was transferred by sheriff deed. We believe the intended receipt of the deed was the Cleveland Land Bank, and that is how the property currently appears in the county records. However, the actual deed lists the grantee as CMSD, which is an error, as CMSD is not normally a direct transferee. The city identified this inconsistency while preparing records to redevelop the Buckeye Woodland property, which, as you know, is part of the larger Wood Hill investment with CMHA and the community there. So this resolution essentially allows for the property records to be cleaned up and properly transferred, and so that the former Buckeye Woodland site is fully the property of the city for the redevelopment of the Wood Hill project. All right. Resolution 7.02 is a resolution authorizing the administration to take custody of the painting known as the Spirit of Education and selected other historical artifacts that ICA Art Conservation can no longer store, and approving a gift agreement. This is a really exciting one. So this resolution it comes out of a partnership we've had for many years with the Intermuseum Conservation Association. Several years ago, we found in our Woodland Data Center a WPA art piece that had been commissioned for Lincoln High School. Lincoln High School used to sit where the current Luis Munoz Marin sits. And this piece was called The Spirit of Education and was painted in 1939 for Lincoln High School. It was installed in the school until 1977 when Lincoln West was constructed and the two schools, Lincoln High School and West High School, were closed. Frankly, the mural had gotten lost. It was found in 2010 at Woodland, and at that time, ICA agreed to house it in a more suitable condition so that it would halt further deterioration. ICA is now moving to a new location, and they cannot continue to keep the mural. And they have two other public works murals from the WPA from the old Valley View home estates, which was demolished in 2005. And so, in addition to that, they also have some concrete ornamental animals. These are a squirrel, a walrus, a bear, and a frog that were part of some of the other public housing projects at the time, and letters and numbers from those. And so with the board's approval, we are proposing that we will take the not only our mural back, but the other two murals and the concrete artifacts that we can then begin to use as part of our upcoming Segment 8 projects so that our K-8 schools have the animals that were designed for play spaces and fun spaces for children as part of WPA. We can use the numbers and the letters as part of our projects, and that we can work to restore these beautiful murals. We estimate the murals will be the total cost of restoration is about $240,000. We're going to work with partners like the Cleveland Historical Society and local foundations. We do not expect to use public tax dollars to do that. But we're really excited about the opportunity for our partnership here to bring home one of our artifacts, to protect two other historical artifacts in the murals, and to incorporate the concrete artifacts, all of which were WPA pieces, into our projects. And we do have some of our colleagues from ICA here today as well. So I just want to recognize them, thank them for being great partners, both in taking it when we couldn't and also giving us the chance to take it back as you move to your new home. And I'll pause for any reflections here.
So when I was reading earlier the board note, there is apparently we're going to try to use at least one of the murals maybe at East Professional Center, but between now and the time it's ready to do that, there was some information about where it was going to be kept. And I don't know how big these murals are. I just wanted to make sure that they are safe where they are, no one can walk off with them, and that if they need to be insured, that they are properly insured as part of what we do.
Yeah, so we walked with the, I'm going to get the letters wrong, my apologies, the ICA folks. We are going to store these in the back of the East Professional Center theater space behind the scrim, where these are very large murals, so no one's going to pick them up and walk away with them.
Just want to be sure.
But we will be able to protect them there, and then the concrete items there as well. I will also check on the insurance. One of them certainly we think can go into East Professional Center. I would remind us we're also we're building a new Lincoln West, and so the Lincoln piece probably has a home somewhere in a new Lincoln West. So we think we can find new permanent homes for these artifacts, and I will check on the insurance.
Mrs. Link?
Thank you. So I don't know if anyone has reached out to Ms. Abduhak, and I don't remember if that's the picture she was looking for forever, but I'll try to take this and send, I think I still have her email, and and so we'll just make sure that she gets this information, because she was always very protective of our paintings, and so this is really exciting for us, and thank you for sharing the extra things that didn't originally belong to CMSD. I'm also wondering if we might have students, do we, maybe from CSA or somewhere that could be part of this excitement and help us, in whatever way museum people would help?
I will certainly explore the student possibility. I know the teacher of the painted arts there would be very interested in some level of participation that might be appropriate. So I will include that, and I'll also work with you to see if we can't reach Ms. Abduhak.
Who is Ms. Abduhak?
She was an original board member, founding member, along with Louise on the school board. So she's a dear member of our community.
Thank you for telling us that. Any further questions on this? Okay.
And I'm just, again, taking a couple of notes, so give me just one moment. I don't want to miss anything. Okay. Resolution 7.03 is a lot less interesting than Resolution 7.02, but very important. We're authorizing the issuance of a purchase order to Martin Public Seating LLC for cafeteria furniture for Rhodes High School of Environmental Studies in the amount of $113,398. The Rhodes cafeteria furniture is very outdated, has a lot of old and broken furniture, has very traditional, the long tables and benches. We are recommending replacing this with new flexible seating furniture that will increase both the capacity and accommodate multiple additional student uses, creating a multi-use space out of the commons at Rhodes High School when it's not being used for breakfast or lunch. We think this will also continue to augment the increased engagement and improve school culture for both schools that share this campus. So again, not as exciting as the WPA murals, but equally important in creating the culture we want for our schools. Okay. Section 8 are our portfolio resolutions. 8.01 is a resolution renewing an agreement with Cleveland College Preparatory School, Hope Academy, Northwest Campus, Horizon Science Academy, Cleveland, the Intergenerational School, Menlo Park Academy, Northeast Ohio College Preparatory School, Stepstone Academy, and Village Preparatory School, Woodland Hills. These are all nonprofit community schools established under Ohio Revised Code Chapter 3314, whereby the Cleveland Municipal School District and the community schools endorse each other's programs. Essentially, these are our partner charter schools that you're familiar with. You will recall that pre-pandemic, the Cleveland Transformation Alliance had created a number of criteria that this board later adopted for the standards of becoming a partner charter school forward-facing, but we had a number of partner schools already in place. So we had at that time gave a 3-year window for those partner schools to get to the standards if they were not yet there, so kind of a grandfathering period. Enter COVID. So the world changed, and the data that we would need is not available, all of that sort of thing. And the Cleveland Transformation Alliance is actually again reviewing those standards to recommend back to this board. And so after discussion with Executive Director Matt Rado, who's here this evening, we are recommending that these schools be given a 1-year extension to their grandfathering rather than trying to be evaluated on incomplete data at very best and in the midst of proposed new standards. So this is a 1-year extension of the grandfathering of these partnering charter schools. And I'll pause for any questions from the board.
I remember some of our community school partner agreements, including a provision that they supply CMSD with student disciplinary action records. I'm not seeing that here. Is that part of the grandfathering, or is there another reason? Am I remembering that correctly?
That is in the sponsored schools.
Okay.
The conversation about the partnering schools is going on right now, so it can certainly be brought to the table in the partnering schools, but what you're recalling is our sponsored schools, and that is already in our sponsored contracts.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great if we could think about it for the partnering schools as well.
So I'm sitting on the Transformation Alliance group that is reviewing all of these, and so we should, maybe have additional conversation, or we could have about what they're reviewing and what new items could be, because at the end of the day, whatever they recommend and whatever I think their board approves does come to this board for approval. And so if there are things that we'd like to see in it, we should probably mention that up front. So we should talk about that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And I'll ask Mr. Rado, who is here, to pull the examples that we already have in our sponsor agreement so that the committee has exemplar language to potentially consider.
And Mr. Rado is gracious enough to also be participating in this, in the committee as well, and so thank you for doing that. It's a tough go. Oh, Mrs. Lee?
Thank you. Do we have information, or will the committee have information on the percentage of Cleveland residents that these schools serve versus non-Cleveland residents?
Yes, Mr. Rado is nodding, yes.
Yes, that is one of the current requirements and one of the ones that we expect will continue moving forward. And the current threshold, if I recall, is 80%, Mr. Rado? Yeah, so to be a partnering charter, you have to get to 80%, and that is part of what was grandfathered while schools worked toward that. So that is part of the current discussion as well.
And then what if a school is not, like, I understand they might have to grow to that number, but like, how do you judge ones that are already in place? You know, what happens if you're not at that 80%?
Then they would not be eligible for being a partner charter school.
Okay, thank you.
And it is true that partner charter schools share in levy dollars.
For the portion of their students that are district residents, that's correct.
That's correct, yes. So the sponsor schools automatically get it, and partner schools can get it for students that are CMSD students.
So can I just ask like a clarifying question? So for instance, you're a partner school and you have, let's say, 1,000 students and 500 of them live in Cleveland, so they would be eligible for like 50%, not the whole 1,000?
They would not be able to be a partner because they would not meet the 80% threshold. But if you use the same example and they were 800 out of 1,000, they would be eligible for dollars for those 800.
80%, okay.
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Well, but it's dollars based on the 80%.
It is a 1.25 mil share of all of the schools
Right.
based on those percentages.
Yeah.
Correct.
But everybody at the school, 100% of the students at the school essentially share in the dollars, but the calculation of how they get it is based on the number of CMSD kids at the school.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
correct. It
yeah.
essentially goes into their version of the general fund.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Resolution 8.02 is amending and restating the sponsorship contract. So now this is sponsorship of the 8 community schools sponsored by the Cleveland Municipal School District. This is an annual update that Mr. Rado and his team does to update our contracts with all of the community schools we sponsor. The length of the contracts is not being changed. That always has to come for a specific board action. This is to update with any new language that is required by the State Department of Education, or in some cases the district. This impacts our Citizens Leadership Academy, Citizens Leadership Academy East, and Village Preparatory School, Willard in particular, to add their blended learning in, because that is a new feature since their contract was in place. The state passed emergency legislation that dates back to July 1, so we have to kind of backdate and fix our contracts. Also, you notice that Citizen Leadership is merging with Citizens Leadership East, so we will be combining those contracts. We are adding student retention and re-enrollment data to our existing school reporting requirements, including, that's in the school finance, health, and culture section. And the law changes require schools to share their state report card results with parents within 30 days, so we're putting that in our contract. New requirements to communicate with districts about transportation purposes, so we're putting that in the contract. And then updating the current academic accountability framework with the new state report card that goes into effect this year. So this is our annual update and review. You have the model contracts attached from Mr. Rado, along with the list of schools. And again, this is just the annual cleaning up to align the contract with all of the new changes in law. And I'll pause again for any questions.
Thank you. So is it the sponsored schools, so the 8.02 that we're talking about, are these the ones that we can use in our report card data?
We can use both the partnered and the sponsored, and do use both into our report card data. The difference is the sponsored is we are the authorizer, we are the supervisor, we evaluate them. Their charter is because of us. The partnered has another sponsor somewhere, but has agreed to enter into our sharing agreement through the protocols that we described in the prior resolution in exchange for access to the local levy dollars.
Okay, and do we expect new entrants in either of these categories?
It has been my recommendation that we not consider new entrants at this time because of the volatile nature of report cards and everything else going on. So it is not my recommendation right now to bring potential new entrants forward. Of course, if there was one that we thought worthy of consideration, again, I'd work with Mr. Rado's office and determine whether we thought that was worth the board's consideration.
And is that for both sponsorship and partnership, or is partnership more with Transformation Alliance?
The Alliance recommends to this board the criteria. We then determine which schools would meet those criteria. So right now, it would be for both.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. The next resolution is Resolution 9.01, a resolution to adopt the Student Code of Conduct for the 22-23 school year. The Student Code of Conduct is collaboratively reviewed annually by the District Student Behavioral Supports Committee, which is a committee that includes members of the district administration, members of the school-based administration, and members of the Cleveland Teachers Union. Mr. Andrew Romans, who is here somewhere, Andrew is one of our board attorneys, has led this work collaboratively with Jillian Arns from the Teachers Union, Andrew Kuntz, who's one of our network leaders, and a number of other folks. And then the Code of Conduct is always presented to the CTU Executive Committee for their ratification and to the board for your ratification. There are kind of three large updates this year and a lot of smaller updates, but the three large ones are replacing the former student uniform requirements with the educationally appropriate dress and appearance expectations that we rolled out last summer and then implemented into the fall, which has really worked well. You saw our young ladies dressed here today. And so, but was not in the Code of Conduct. And so we have added that. You'll see that on the exhibit on pages 6, 7, 8, and 9. You'll also see updates to the appropriate use of cellular phones and electronic devices to better align with both the district's vision for learning opportunities, to provide more anytime, anywhere learning. Previously, we prohibited the use of cell phones and electronic devices on school transportation. However, we are actually adding Wi-Fi hotspots on our buses, and so it wouldn't make any sense to have Wi-Fi hotspots if kids weren't allowed to use it. And so we've updated it to include the appropriate use of devices that does not create a disruption or an impact to the safe operation of school transportation. And you'll see those on pages 12 and 13. We will yet this spring be rolling out the Wi-Fi on about 2/3 of our fleet. The 1/3 that will not have the Wi-Fi are the third that you have authorized for us to replace over the summer, and we're not going to put Wi-Fi on a bus and then retire it. So we are actually going to signal on those buses that their new bus is coming and will also be Wi-Fi enabled. So we're really excited about that expansion as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we are incorporating updates to Board Policy AC, and that full policy is published in the Code of Conduct so that students and families are aware of their rights and responsibilities regarding discrimination, discriminatory harassment, and sexual harassment. And those changes are on pages 23 through 28. And I'll pause again for any questions or comments from the board.
So, Mr. Gordon, this is the code of conduct that students and parents receive a copy of?
Yes, once the board approves this, we actually send it to print. So we have physical copies that get passed out to all of the students at their back-to-school meetings. Principals typically have assemblies where they review the key changes in the document. There is a form inside of the document where parents are expected to acknowledge receipt of it, and we collect those forms back. It is also available online, gets posted under our student and parent section of our webpage. We are currently revamping the whole website, so we hope to have an even more easily accessible version of it as that revamp happens as well.
Thank you. Ms. Ellicott?
I know we had students come to a board meeting and talk about how and why they felt it was unreasonable to disallow hooded jackets. And so I'm glad to see that that has been, heard and considered and removed. And then I just want to reiterate that repeat, under inappropriate clothing, that the clothing examples about exposure of, I guess, skin are still mostly typical school, girl clothes, and we should look at that and try to not look like we're specifically targeting female attire.
Thank you. I will ask the committee to revisit that because I had shared that feedback, but it looks like we may have missed it, so we will revisit.
And I
Got it.
guess,
Thank you.
Mr. Gordon, the thing I'm just sitting here thinking is wondering if, like, what grade level student would pick up the code of conduct and be able to read and understand it, if there might be a reason to have a version that was more user-friendly by younger students or used words that were more like age appropriate. I mean, I read it says, except under exigent circumstances, comma, suspension or expulsion will not be used. I think the word exigent, I mean, I would have to go and look up what the word exigent meant. And so I just wonder if we've given any consideration to all the audiences that might want to pick up the code of conduct and read it, and maybe there are different versions that need to be considered. I don't know if it's grade appropriate or age appropriate or something like that, so that everybody can read this and understand exactly what it means.
Yeah, certainly, once the board adopts an official one, I can certainly ask the team to start creating some, the age-appropriate materials for different grade levels and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It would all have to tie back to an official board-adopted policy, but that's certainly something we could explore.
Okay. I don't want to make work for people, but we expect people to know and understand what's in this document, and I think the way it's currently written might limit its usefulness in that regard.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess, just to be further comment, like I hadn't thought about it, and I probably haven't read all these words, but do we actually like run it through something that gives it a grade level? Like, should we really even produce something that's anything above an 8th grade level? I mean, I don't know how that works, but anyhow, that it maybe this other version would be that. Because again, I don't understand if the words are like, by law we have to have them, so, but I'll take a better look at it too this week.
I will find out what we can do about that. There are some pieces that must be in there by law. There are other pieces that are our policies. So I will see what we can find out on that as well. Okay. Okay, great. Resolution 10.01 authorizes the CEO or designee to enter an agreement with MAC Installation and Consulting LLC to procure installation services for the Clever Touch installation in various Cleveland Municipal School buildings in the amount not to exceed $1,657,000. So you'll recall in February, the board approved purchasing Clever Touch devices that we will be installing district-wide. We also, at that time, went out for a request for proposals for the installation of those devices through a competitive bidding process, and this organization, MAC Installation and Consulting, had the lowest responsive bid, and so this will complete our ability to begin installing those Clever Touch devices. The board may also remember at our retreat last weekend the video of the students from Mound School who had airdropped their presentation, touched the screen, and so this is part of our digital literacy efforts to make sure our students have the same kinds of digital tools that their peers in the suburbs would have. So I'm very excited to bring you the second and final piece of that project so that we can move forward. Finally, resolutions in section 11 are talent resolutions. These are our monthly resolutions. 11.01 authorizes the employment of teaching, non-teaching, and school-based administrative staff. There are 81 new hires, so we are making progress. There are 47 in the Cleveland Teachers Union, including paraprofessionals, substitute paraprofessionals, teachers, and an occupational therapist, including 25 new substitute teachers. There's an assistant custodian and laborer, a new carpenter, 2 more security officers, additional environmental service specialists and lunchroom attendants, a professional bus driver, a driver trainee, and a bus attendant, and 20 non-bargaining positions, which include a preschool coordinator, a bilingual coordinator for our family and community engagement, some financial analysts, employee licensure coordinator, a manager of out-of-school time partnerships, which is all of the stuff that partners with, as Mr. Green explained earlier, with the the activities after school, some project managers for our strategic planning, substitute cleaners, substitute secretaries, and additional substitute teachers. 11.02 authorizes the reclassification of employees. This is 24 reclassifications. Just as a reminder, reclassifications are existing employees who have accepted a new role in the district, and they are listed in your agenda. Resolution 11.03 authorizes the issuance of limited contracts for differential positions and the payment of additional earned compensation to employees. This is differentials including cheerleader advisors, chess sponsors, boys and girls basketball coaches, boys and girls track coaches, department chairs, our SEL building coordinators, our testing coordinators, our class meeting trainers, our PATHS trainers, which is our social emotional learning program, and restorative practices trainers. And finally, 11.04 authorizes the acceptance of the retirements, resignations, and other separations of employees. This is 62 separations, including 37 resignations, 20 retirements, 1 unfortunately by death, and 3 because of AWOL absences. We do have the separations by union and by year to date. We are ahead of the prior year, as I've shared in the past, but still not anywhere near what we're seeing in a more national picture. And these include a combination of people who are separating immediately and people who are notifying us of their acceptance at the end of the academic year, but we accept them when they are submitted to us. And then finally, oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, go ahead, I'll just do it at the end. Oh, are you on this thing still?
That concludes the talent one, so I'll pause for your question.
Thank you. First, congratulations on getting more subs. That's great news. And then on the retirements, I just happened to notice it's a teacher that I know. Why are sometimes it's showing like March 31st instead of the end of the school year?
So the way the state retirement system works, teachers end up getting their year of credit at the end of March. And so there are some teachers who do end their career at the end of March when they've got that year of credit rather than finishing the school year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Finally, Resolution 12.01 under Old Business is adopting the Cleveland Municipal School District calendar for school year 2022-2023. The board will remember that we had the public hearing as required by law as part of the March business meeting. The calendar is going to remain on the agenda for a period of no less than 60 days. It will actually be longer. For public comment, we also have a link on the front page of our homepage where people can give us public comment. It will move into the deliberative agenda in May for the board work session and then adoption in the May business meeting. So it will remain here as old business until it moves back into the actual agenda. And that concludes my presentation of items for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Is there any old business to come before the board? Mrs. Link?
Thank you. So I noticed this in the communication packet, and we had this discussion when we were at Garrett Morgan maybe a month or two ago. So it looks like we're working on the parking situation there in front of the school?
Yes, we've been working with the neighbors and residents, with Councilwoman Spencer, and with Cleveland Police Department and the commercial property owners around the school. It includes redirection of traffic during the pickup and dismissal times, new signage that the city is putting up, communication to our families about the expectations, communications to neighbors, that sort of thing. So the letter is one piece of that that went to all of our families on behalf of the district and to the council members to communicate with their wards.
Thank you. And then the gentleman that came from the business across the street, has that been resolved to his like satisfaction, since that seemed pretty egregious?
I would say we are still working collaboratively, so we have had extra presence on his property and on the streets. We have stayed engaged with him. Michael Hauser from my office has stayed engaged with him. He's been part of the community conversations along the way. So I wouldn't say, until we have completely behavior change where we don't have to spend as much energy on it, I wouldn't call it resolved, but I would say we're all working on the resolution.
In good faith, then. Okay, thank you very much.
And do we have, and I have to say, I think it took courage for him to come to a board meeting and raise that issue, and I was really glad that he did. And it sort of shows the power sometimes of coming to board meetings and raising issues. You get attention when it's something that we need to be looking at. Is there any new business to come before the board? I did want to take just a second to mention that last week we had a historic moment in the country with Ketanji Brown Jackson being confirmed as the Associate Justice, amen, for the United States Supreme Court. I think it's particularly notable because both of her parents were teachers, and she is a product of the public school system. So you can, we think about kids and we say you can go anywhere and do anything, you can go anywhere and do anything and become a Supreme Court justice. And shocking to me that it's 2022 and it's the first time that an African-American woman has gotten onto the court, but it was a good day and hopefully it's a step in the right direction. I think Mrs. Ginsburg would be proud. So with that, the chair will now entertain a motion. Oh, I forgot to mention that a happy birthday this month to Mrs. Link and Mrs. Dempsey, who I believe will both be celebrating their birthdays this month. And so the chair will now entertain a motion that the board enter into executive session for the purposes of considering the employment of public employees, preparing for negotiations with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and third, conferring with attorneys concerning disputes involving the Board of Education that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. Mr. Richie, can you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bingham?
Yes.
Ms. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Ms. Link? Ms. Valdez?
Yes. 5
ayes, that motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Richie. We will now move into executive session. Following executive session, we will return to this room to briefly conduct further business.
Well, my body's been a magnet.
gotten like driving privileges
The
back,
board is
and
now
then-
back in public session. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the suspension of a non-teaching employee, Melvin Burke. Do we have a second? Do we have a second in Louise? Thank you. Mr. Gordon?
Thank you. This is a recommendation for a one-day suspension without pay for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bingham?
Yes.
Ms. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Ms. Link?
Yes.
Ms. Valdez?
Yes.
5 ayes, that motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the suspension of a teaching employee, Tricia Page. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon?
Thank you. This is a recommendation for a 5-day suspension for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Bingham?
Yes.
Ms. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Ms. Link?
Yes.
Ms. Valdez?
Yes.
5 ayes, that motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the suspension of a school-based administrative employee, Margaret Robinson. So moved. Thank you. Mr. Gordon?
Thank you. This is a recommendation for a 5-day suspension for violation of district policies, procedures, and rules.
Mr. Ritchie?
Ms. Bingham?
Yes.
Ms. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Ms. Link?
Yes.
Ms. Valdez?
Yes.
5 ayes, that motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Is there any other business to come before the board? I forgot to mention earlier that our next regular board meeting will be a board business meeting on Tuesday, April 26th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. at John Marshall High School. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn this board work session.
So moved.
Hearing no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. So you tried calling earlier. Is everything? You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
So, we're getting ready for the polling.
Your polling. Yes.